This is the plaintiff, Donna Anderson. She says she rented a condo from the defendant and the woman turned her life into a living nightmare. The woman would call her at work constantly and harass her, and it ended up costing her job as a nurse. Thank God she doesn't live there anymore. If that weren't enough, the defendant now refuses to return her security deposit, claiming she owes back rent, which she does not, so she's suing her here and now for the $1,200 she's owed. This is the defendant, Patricia McCauley. She says the nightmare began as soon as the plaintiff and her unruly son moved in. She refused to pay the proper rent, and then they had to be evicted to get them out. The plaintiff and her son are those professional rent scammers you read about in the papers. She's the one who's out money and will not return a dime to her. She's accused of ticking off a tenant. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $2,778 for back rent and legal costs.
All parties, please use your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff rented a condo from the defendant who harassed or called her work and has generally been impossible. But the defendant says the plaintiff is a professional rent scammer. It's the case of condomania.
Thank you, Douglas. Donna Anderson, you are suing Patricia McCauley, your former landlord, for $1,200 in a security deposit that you are demanding be returned to you and you feel she is unlawfully withholding. You have a counterclaim against her for $2,778 for rent and late fees and eviction fees. Let me hear from you.
My son was doing some work for Mrs. McCauley on a condo that she inherited from her mother after passing. And the condo got water damage because she did not leave the heat on properly.
Okay, so she hires your son to do some renovations, and then how do you come into the picture?
I was looking for rent, and she had a nice condo, and it had room in the basement, like 400 square feet, for my son, who was relocating from Upper Connecticut back into Fairfield County. So with this, we had an agreement that my son would do the work on the condo in exchange for $600 of rent.
Okay, but wait, your son was going to do the work in the condo and get paid to do the work in the condo? Because that
no, in exchange.
You tell me, how did you meet her son and what was the agreement you had with him?
After a few months of discussions, in October, I finally agreed that I would allow her to move into the condo.
Okay, stop. Did you hire her son before you met her? No, or no? That was part and parcel of this agreement.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that she would move into the condo and her son would do the work.
Right. He said, I'm a contractor. I can do all the work. And he gave me a license. It was an official license. He gave me a copy.
And what work was he going to do?
He was going to do all the repairs.
Okay, all the repairs is not an answer. What work was he going to do specifically?
So he had to redo all the sheetrock in the basement. He was going to make sure all the carpeting was installed, all the condo was totally painted. I had purchased all new appliances, although I didn't need to because nothing was wrong with them, but I figured a new tenant's moving in, I'm going to buy new appliances. I bought all new stainless steel. He was going to install all the appliances for me.
Did you have a contract with him?
Yes, I have a
May I see it?
I have a contract with him.
Okay, and then in return for that, you were also going to let his mother live there and pay reduced rent.
Reduced rent,
But were you going to pay him for all of this stuff, or that was the payment?
It was a combination.
So you were also paying him aside from that aside from that reduced rent.
I paid him a lot of money. These were all labor costs that I paid him, and then in addition, I had about I didn't bring all those bills. I do have tons of them, but over $10,000 worth of expenses from Home Depot.
Right,
that he was charging.
Right.
So that was in addition to those costs.
So according to this invoice, you paid him $9,400, almost $10,000. All right. And did he perform all the work?
No.
Okay. So now you lived there for how many? You signed a lease with her, correct?
I signed a 6-month lease from her.
May I see the 6-month lease that you signed?
I have a copy of it if you need it.
Let me see it from both parties.
This one I wrote some comments on for the judge.
Okay, and then I need to see your copy of the lease to make sure we're all on the same page here.
That was the signed new lease.
My dear, I'm asking for one thing, the original 6-month lease. Yes or no, do you have it? That's all.
No, I don't, because I've asked for it numerous
times
times and she never gave it to me.
So this is for 6 months, and what happens during those 6 months? What work does your son complete?
The condo was in move-in condition except for a few little things that my son needed to do.
Okay.
The day that I moved in, they were still putting in sinks and toilets
Tell me about
and
May.
rugs.
May comes and you're supposed
Okay,
to...
May comes in March.
Your lease is over.
Okay, in March, I started asking Mrs. McCauley for the original lease. So here May comes along, and I'll be honest with you, Your Honor, I did not read the first lease. She handed it to me in the midst of carpeting, toilets being put in, me with movers.
It's your own fault if you don't read something you
Okay,
sign.
I did not read it. Well, the second lease I did read completely, and after 2 days where it said that she was only a hands-on landlord, that I only hand her the rent, and I'm responsible for the bathroom that she never installed in the basement. I have pictures of the
You're
toilet, the
responsible
sink.
for what?
I'm responsible for the entire condo.
Meaning what? If you're
The
a tenant, what do you mean?
appliances, the
You mean
new
if an appliance
bathroom, the
breaks it-
dishwasher that's not hooked up.
You mean that if an appliance breaks, this new lease was saying that you're the one who has to fix it?
Right.
Okay, go on.
I'm responsible for.
Okay, so you didn't sign the lease.
I signed the lease and
Oh,
I
you did
rejected
sign the
it.
lease.
I rejected it.
4
2 days later.
4 days
Wait,
later.
wait. You signed the lease and then you say, I rejected it. What does I reject it mean?
I called her up and I said, there's problems with the lease. There's too many
I know, but you already
cross-offs.
signed it.
Don't I have a legal right to reject a lease after so many days?
No. And when did she claim I reject this?
May 28th, and she signed it on May 25th.
Okay.
And May
And that's
28th,
Memorial
I
What
got
do
Day
you do
weekend.
when May 20th is the end of the 6-month lease? So
Right.
and also part of what you're saying, my son hasn't finished the work, so I still shouldn't have to pay $1,200 a month.
Exactly.
I like paying $550, and that's what I should keep paying.
Exactly.
Right?
No.
That's
No,
exactly.
she needed to rewrite the lease and I would have paid her $1,200. But when I mailed
Rewrite the lease to say what? You already signed
that
it.
I'm not responsible for all this stuff in her condo.
In the end of July 2014, she sent me a letter to evict me. I couldn't believe it. The work on the condo never even finished.
June 1st, I sent her a check for $600 and she cashed it. At that
So
point,
why in June do you cash a $600 check?
I took the money because I didn't think I was going to get any other money from her.
right.
she doesn't even have a CO.
I'm not talking to you right now. All right, so now you accept the $600 in June, and what happens in July?
Okay, so in June, I did accept it, but I sent her a certified letter stating that since your lease is up on May 31st, I'm giving you a 30-day termination notice effective immediately to move out of my premises.
When do you send that?
She received it on May 29th. I sent it on the
Oh,
28th.
okay. So June happens.
So right after she rejected the lease, next day I went down to court and I filed a case to get.
Okay, did you
get
end up
her.
hiring a lawyer?
I did hire a lawyer.
Okay, now in the eviction proceeding where you proceed there, what happens is your lawyer ends up filing a pleading that says rent is $600 and she owes rent for July. Why does your lawyer do that if your position is that rent is now $1,200?
I don't know. I argued with him on that, and he said, "Don't worry about it. It's just something I have to put in here."
All right, so you file the eviction and then you come to court when?
Your Honor, I paid the rent in July also.
Yeah, the
and
check
she
was
said
never
she didn't
cashed,
get
right?
it.
The check for July was never
Yes, it
cashed.
was, because I did a replacement check.
Did you end up cashing July, $600?
I did get the $600
Yeah, she
check.
came
So then,
to my
did you
condo.
pay August? What did you pay for August?
I
Did you
got
pay
it late
600?
on July
Okay.
21st,
Did you
so-
pay August?
Yes, my son had to go down to the Bridgeport court and pay the $600.
He paid into the registry.
Yes.
Okay, and that money ended up after the settlement going to you, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then did you pay September?
I'm not sure.
You know whether you paid September or not. Did she pay
No,
September?
she didn't pay September, and I applied that $600 to the June rent that she owed me because she owed me the $1,200 in
Well,
June.
just slow your roll, okay?
I didn't
Because
sign anything.
Stop talking. Nobody's asking you a question. Listen to me. You folks go to court. You have your hearing in September, right? And the settlement is she's going to pay. You get the $600 that's in the registry. Now, she screamed out something at one point saying you don't even have a CO. Do you have a CO?
I do now, but
No. Did you have it then?
No, her son
Well,
was
then,
supposed to-
listen to me. You can't rent it without a CO in your state. Period. The part that's still in contest is a $1,200 security deposit, which is what she's suing for. Tell me your reasoning for keeping the $1,200 security deposit.
There was some damages. There was my brand new stove. The cooktop had a big chip in it that she covered up with like black paint or marker because she had a big dent in the freezer portion of my stainless steel freezer refrigerator. I don't know how that could have happened.
Okay.
There was also custom-made blinds in the living room that their painters took out, and they couldn't find the replacement for them. So she said, I can't afford blinds, so I'm going to buy 3 separate small blinds instead of one huge blind, which was custom built. And she bought these cheap blinds, and they were all like breaking on the bottom already.
Do you have pictures of anything?
Do you have any of those?
Do you have receipts
no,
for anything?
His computer crashed on that, so I don't have
Do you have
that
receipts
to
for
show.
anything? To repair anything? Did you want to respond to the damages that she talked about?
Yeah, the stove, it was an accident. I was taking something hot out of the oven and I was on the phone and I just missed the top of the stove and they weren't very expensive appliances.
Okay.
As far as the refrigerator goes, I had one of these decorated things on the refrigerator and the door flew open and the wall was there and it dented it.
Okay. And what about the shades?
I know nothing about her shades. They were taken down before I even moved in. How do you paint with shades on? You know.
You can stand up and you can
So
talk
I
to
don't
me.
even know
Feel
if
free
she
to
has
come on
a
up.
CO.
Okay. So what did you want to say that I know you passed her a note?
Oh, no, just about the attorney fees,
Well,
the
the
legal
legal fees that I had to pay to get her out. I paid $1,100 to get her in, which I didn't want her in, and then I
Okay.
paid another.
But you can't get legal fees in this case for. Well, actually, let me see what your settlement
It
says.
says it in my contract that I can.
Your Honor, I never wanted to move out of the condo.
Press the off button on you.
Okay, so who rents an apartment here? You rent an apartment?
Rented an apartment, not now.
Did you read the lease before you signed?
Yes,
You did?
Yes.
Read the full lease?
most of the lease.
Okay, well, you rent an apartment?
Yes.
Ever read the lease before you signed?
Skim it.
Skim it, what does that mean? The way a lawyer would skim it, kind of?
No.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but I am going to make a point in a minute, going inside the courtroom.
As for your claim against Ms. McCauley, you are suing for the security deposit of $1,200. Ms. McCauley wants to keep it because she says, A, there are damages, which we've talked about and you've admitted to some of them. Some you don't know what happened. B, there are attorney's fees that she had to spend to get you out. And your lease, the original one, does say, if we were assuming that we're going by the original one, the other one says it too, but does say that you're entitled to attorney's fees if somebody has to go to court to enforce the provisions of the lease. And one of the provisions is if you hold over, okay? And 3, rent. You are not entitled to keep it for rent. We've gone over it. You have no CO, so you can't keep it for rent. But you can keep it for damages and for your attorney's fees. And I am ordering that you do not get your $1,200 security back because that's what's going to cover those damages. Good luck, folks.
Thank you, Judge.
So the plaintiff does not prevail on her lawsuit. You were having a problem trying to get some information across to the judge, weren't you?
Right.
What were you trying to tell her that we didn't hear?
It was an illegal apartment. She had no CO. My son finished the work. She drove me crazy for 6 months. She didn't have to get me out. I enjoyed the apartment. I loved the apartment.
But you couldn't stay
And I
there
can't-
because the lease was over.
I
You understand
can't
that?
all she did is have to write another lease.
But she didn't, and you didn't get it signed. That's why you have to
Right.
go. Okay?
Right.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much.
But I'm very disappointed in the judge, and I don't think I'll ever watch the show again. Thank you.
Sorry about that. That's the way it is in court. You don't always like what the judge decides. And you were lucky, too. You know, you did prevail, but the ignorance of the law in many of the areas here was not your friend.
No, I trusted her son as a contractor, and I was being a nice person by letting her in. She was getting thrown out of her own other apartment.
Listen, bottom line, have you learned anything from all of this?
I have. Don't trust anybody, and make sure you go through and check everything out ahead of time with the laws.
And learn the law.
And learn the laws.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Harvey?
Okay, Doug, look, it is hard to read a lease. It is painful to read a lease, but a lot of money is on the line, and you got to know what the terms are if you want to get out of the lease. You got to know what the terms are in terms of what the landlord is supplying for you, who's paying utilities, all sorts of things. It is worth the pain of reading it, and worst case scenario, hire a lawyer for an hour. It could save you a lot of money. And that will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.